Hi, welcome to the Russ Gorman Show. We have a special guest today, Morton Downey Jr., who is performing at the Kowloon in Saugus. Welcome to the show. It's great
Thanks,
to
Russ.
have
How
you.
are you?
Great.
Good
No,
to see you.
you're not making
Actually, it's Nick's Comedy Corner at the Kowloon.
at the Kowloon,
Yeah.
right? That's an important distinction, too. Now, you're not making your comedy debut. You've been doing comedy for a while.
Well, a lot of people thought my show was comedy, but I've been doing this for about 3 years, yeah.
Well,
It's like my 8th visit to Boston.
uh-huh.
Yeah.
I didn't realize it had been that many times.
Yeah.
I'd like to talk about something that I think would be interesting. Are you the only child of the Downey family that's
No.
continuing with the dynasty?
Oh, the only one who's continuing in the business?
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, you have a very illustrious background with a Bennett Downey
Right.
combination.
Yeah, the Joan, Connie, and my mom, Barbara.
And
my
your
grandfather, Richard. My grandmother was also a playwright. And her mother and my grandfather's father, and goes back 7 generations.
Now, your grandfather was one of the greatest matinee idols at, what, the turn of the century into the early part of the...
Yeah.
And then he was also a technical director on a lot of silent movies.
To be honest with you, didn't know about that.
Do you remember your grandfather?
Yeah, I remember him as a kid when I was about 7 years old.
Uh-huh.
I remember once him taking me on a trolley car in San Francisco.
Oh, no
I thought
kidding.
he was a great guy. He had a great big beaver coat on. He sat down, and they came by for the nickel to collect the fare, and he stood up and he said, "Do you know who I am?" I'm looking at this as a little kid. He said, "I am Richard Bennett." Proceeded to open up his coat and didn't have a stitch of clothes on.
You're kidding.
Yeah, so I realized I came from a pretty flaky family.
Colorful background.
Colorful. I mean, today, they put you in jail.
Well, either that or they hire you for a male stripper.
Yeah, either
No,
way.
he may have been ahead of his time. Your mother, Barbara, was supposed to have been the most beautiful of the Bennett sisters.
She was the prettiest of the Bennetts, and she was the dancer.
Right.
She was the dancer. She danced with a fellow by the name of Maurice in Europe. When she was only 14, she was on the road dancing. And she came back and she did one motion picture called Syncopation, which was really the first radio sound picture ever made in 1929. And she brought my father in as a co-star with her, and they weren't married at the time, and that's when they fell in love and got married.
Oh,
Yeah.
nice love story.
Yeah.
That's really great. Now, with the Bennetts, with your mother in particular, one of her first plays on Broadway was The Dancers. Was that with Tallulah Bankhead also?
That was with Tallulah Bankhead, and they got the original Tony Award for that. And I
didn't know
have that award, which is a beautiful pocket watch that they got for that.
Wow.
Yeah.
That must have been some cast.
Long before our time, pal.
Oh, you bet your life. Ruth Gordon, just to get one more thing with your grandfather.
She's still alive.
No, she died
Just a
what,
few years
about
ago.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Very,
Great
fairly
actress.
recent. Absolutely. She wrote about your grandfather in one of her books and said that he was an absolute devil with the ladies.
He was. We had to send Grandpa away when he was 76 years old for making a 15-year-old chorus girl pregnant. So, yeah, Grandpa's quite a swinger.
You know,
Very good guy. By the time he was 78, he was sitting in a rocking chair throwing rock candy at people. So he was a little
your
off.
legacy is getting more and more interesting all the time.
I'm wondering if I'm going to fall into that kind of a role eventually.
You should only hope
Yeah.
at that age.
Should live so long, right?
Oh, sure. Have you ever thought about doing any acting?
Well, as a matter of fact, I just completed not too long ago a co-starring role with Danny Glover in Predator 2, which will be released on the 9th of December. I also finished a movie of the week with Mary Tyler Moore called Thanksgiving Day, which will be released obviously on Thanksgiving. I also just completed a motion picture with Robert Davi that I star in called Down and Dirty. I also just completed, and it's just shown on HBO, starring role in Tales of the Crypt. And I'm going back, I just completed with Milton Berle and Dom DeLuise a motion picture called Autobahn. And I'm going back on stage to do, back on location in the next 2 weeks to do an motion picture with Peter O'Toole called Reuben and Ed.
Oh.
So the answer is no, I never thought about
I
it.
haven't even given it a thought.
Right.
Obviously, you keep busy.
Yeah.
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 That's a pretty impressive list of things coming up.
Well, that's last week. Now, next week I'll be... Yeah.
How about musical comedy? Have you given that a thought? You
Musical
sing?
comedy? No, two of the pictures, incidentally, that I did are comedies, Autobahn and Thanksgiving Day. So I'm getting asked more and more to do comedy. I think it's not because of my timing, but because of my face. Most people think that's pretty funny anyhow. I haven't given thought to doing musical comedy. That would be so restricting to me to have to be on stage every single night for 18 months. I was asked to do a musical comedy about 6 months ago, a musical, and would require a commitment of 18 months for me, and that just wipes out anything else you can do.
A friend of mine also has the exact same attitude. She said acting in the theater is like being in jail.
Really is.
Yes, you can't.
Really is.
have
Now,
any
that's
life.
not to say I don't want to do that at some point, because that becomes the other stitch in the knitting that you're doing to create whatever type of a sweater or straitjacket you're trying to put on yourself.
True. Well, for the time being, it would seem almost to interfere with what you have been doing.
It would, and I don't intend to do that.
What do you think goes into making a really exciting TV host? What's the one element that you think is most important?
What goes into making an exciting TV host? Not giving a damn if you get yourself in trouble. I think that's important. I think you have to be willing to walk along the edge of the cliff and hope that you don't do anything that drags anyone over with you, but hope that you have the courage to be able to walk off that cliff once in a while.
To dare to be outrageous.
Yeah.
Well, you know, I think you got a head start, too, because you have to have courage to be the child of stars. That takes guts.
I never really felt that way. Never felt that way. I took off at a pretty young age. You know, I left my family at a young age and didn't talk to them again until I was 27 years old.
Not a bad idea.
And that was the best thing that ever happened to me. My brothers all stayed home. And consequently, they ended up working for the family and doing everything that the family wanted them to do. Had I done what my family wanted to do, I would undoubtedly have 20 years ago been found hanging from some shower curtain. That wasn't my type of life.
Yeah, right. Have you noticed a lot of people that do become very successful come from backgrounds where they have nothing to lose?
Yeah.
So the taking of the chances and maybe being outrageous and courageous really isn't an alternative, it's a must.
I think so. Someone says, well, what do you do if you blow this career? So what? You know, you just keep walking down the road. There's going to be another mountain.
Another shot.
And you just get to climb that other mountain.
Sure. And the other mountain could be pretty exciting to climb.
You bet.
Yeah, it's something brand new. How about controversy? Is controversy something you just walk into, or do you sometimes engineer it a little bit?
Well, a controversy is something that exists in the solution or lack of solution to a problem that has been or has not been addressed. And you walk into it and you obviously manipulate it because it's there. And you manipulate it to try and get an answer, to try and find a solution. You don't get into the situation of creating a committee to study the problem to create a solution, because by the time you come up with them, the problem will be so magnified you'll have to assign another committee to study it again.
Well, there's so many people that are afraid of any kind of controversy that they'll avoid any kind of confrontation.
They're liars. They're liars. They're phony.
Yeah.
They're phony. The minute you're afraid of controversy, you've created it.
And you're also afraid of truth.
Yeah, you're afraid
That's what it
of
really
you're
comes
afraid
down
of
to.
it.
Sure. If you had to choose just one medium, you do comedy, you do movies, TV, what would you choose?
Radio.
Radio. Did you start with radio? Whereabouts?
Started with radio in El Paso, Texas in 1958 with Gordon McClendon, the Happy Scotsman. Early rock and roll.
I'm glad to hear. I do radio every day. Yeah. Really glad
Radio's
to hear.
theater of the mind.
Yeah, it is.
It takes much more ability to do radio than it does television, and to be truly successful in radio. Radio would be first, television would be second, and I love motion pictures. That's kind of like a vacation for me.
Yeah, I think that would
I
be
get to hide behind someone else's character.
That's something special, isn't it?
Yeah.
That really takes the inhibitions off, and you can be whoever
Well, I
you
get
want.
to expose myself as them.
Yeah.
But because I'm them, nobody knows it's me.
And they can't criticize.
That's right.
Yeah, absolutely true. I interviewed Hans Conried. Remember Hans Conried?
Sure.
Great character actor. He said the exact same thing as you did about radio being the theater of the mind. He was talking about the old Mercury Playhouse. And he said we could not possibly recreate the scenes on television or in movies that we could do in radio because we were using the most important device ever, someone's imagination. And you just can't possibly do. He said the women that we had on the show were the most beautiful because people were visualizing them to be as beautiful as they
It's
wanted
theater
them
of
to
the
be.
mind.
Yeah.
Exactly. As he
So
said.
radio is still important. I think radio is...
I think they've
will
killed
always
AM
be.
radio. I'm so sorry for what they've done to it. Become very lazy at how to utilize AM radio, and that's too bad.
Yes, it is.
Too bad. It's an entire medium being wasted.
Yeah. Well, some of us are still trying to keep it lively, but I agree. It is something that's going downhill very, very fast. Television. What do you think of the current crop of TV hosts, talk hosts?
I think Phil Donahue represents his philosophy extremely well. I think Geraldo represents himself very well. I think that Sally Jessy Raphael is just a magnificent woman. I think Oprah is a lady who methinks she cries and complains too much about how tough life was on her. I know very few people who had an anchor job at a television station in a major market when they were only 17.
Mm-hmm.
The current crop, yeah, they're good. They're good. Can they be better? Oh, hell yeah.
Sure.
Yeah.
I agree with you about Oprah 100%. I don't know why Oprah's so down on men, but I think she has a castration complex.
Well, I don't blame her for being down on men. I mean, I can't imagine that there's too many men who've looked at her.
I don't know. I'm at the point now when I watch Oprah, I just want to say, like, eat, eat, eat. I want to see the woman gain another 300 pounds. I'm sick of the male bashing that she does.
Oh, she just,
She just doesn't let up on it.
Well, I guess if you've had a rough life and men have treated you poorly because you have, first of all, a lack of a sincere personality, that's easy to happen.
That's the best way to have it happen. Yeah, you want to be treated badly? How about your own kids? Did you encourage them to enter show business?
I encourage my kids to do whatever they want to do.
Good.
Because whatever they think they can do, they can do.
Any of them heading in that direction?
No, none of them heading in the show business direction. I have 3 daughters. I would like to see one of them become president of the United States, and the other one be a hired assassin just in case the first one didn't do a good job.
I would hate to think that you're going to be the end of the entertainment line with the Downey.
I think it's probably best that it be laid to rest with Morton Jr. I haven't always made everyone in my family happy with the type of shows that I do, the type of humor that I have, and that's unfortunate because they have allowed themselves to remain in the 19th century, and it'd be so nice to move into the 21st.
It would be refreshing for them.
I've got a wonderful family, wonderful people, but sometimes you become so steeped in what you did that you can't see what anyone else does.
Or in tradition.
Yeah.
You can get really hung up on tradition. What was your toughest TV show?
Oh, I don't know. I have no idea.
Anybody that
no show was that tough.
Anybody interview that was something that stuck in your mind as an all-time favorite?
No, my favorite person to interview is Alan Dershowitz. I just think he's a brilliant man.
Oh, he is. He is indeed.
I like Alan. He's very honest, very truthful, very intellectual, and very logical.
Right. You know, you have a show to do, and I appreciate you taking the time to do the interview so much, because you must have nerves of steel to be able to do an interview and then go out and do a show like this.
Yeah, what the hell can I do? All I can do is boo.
Nobody's got to boo. If they boo, I'll get after them for you.
Thanks a million.
Thank you so much.
It's been a pleasure having you. Thanks for taking your time to come up and see me.
It was a pleasure for me.
Thanks to all your crew, too, that are here.
Great crew.
Thanks again.
And until next time, I'm Russ Gorman. I'm strongly wish on the star. Thank you.
Thanks.